Hi, I'm Lynn. Welcome to the Stitch TV show.
And I'm Pam. We're happy you're joining us today. The Stitch is an online quilting talk show, the perfect soundtrack for your sewing room. Join us for twice monthly talk shows, virtual stitch-ins, celebrity interviews, and podcasts. You can learn more at thestitchtvshow.com.
Our show today is brought to you by QT Fabrics, and they gave us these pixie dots.
So by the time this episode drops, the giveaway for this bundle will have ended.
Oh,
but there will be
sad.
But there will be more.
I know. That's exciting. I don't know what's coming next,
I don't
though.
either.
It'll be a surprise.
Surprise!
Yay, I love surprises.
Show is also brought to you by Famori Cutlery, who is a maker of specialty scissors, shears, and crafting tools. And today we have some very excellent tweezers on the table.
Yes. The snips.
The pointy scissors.
Which I'm going to do a tip thing and demonstrate how to use these
Cool.
with some applique.
Don't run with them because they look very sharp.
I won't run. Yes, they're very...
Do not do that.
So today we're going to be talking about how different quilting methods on Quilt As You Go, and also taking care of your quilts by how to wash them appropriately. We're also joined by my version of the droid quilt in the BB-8 colors, just in time for the premiere of Star Wars.
The Force Awakens.
The Force will awaken. But you won't awaken if you sleep under this, because it'll be extra cozy. There you go.
Or maybe I just mangled the name of that movie, and that was the one that premiered 2 years ago.
Oh, well, I think you did.
And
but
it's
anyway,
just infused in my brain.
I think it's The Last Jedi.
It's always time for Star Wars, frankly. The Last
Well, you
Jedi.
you have to watch The Force Awakens before you can watch The Last Jedi. So
I mean,
they
I
need
don't
to be
think
prepared.
they're going to give you a test when you buy your ticket to see.
They will, I'm sure.
Like, you have to have a nerd score of like 70 or above to get in.
So anyway, if you want your own copy of this pattern, it's a digital download at shop.stitchtvshow.com.
Awesome. So, Lynn,
yes,
what's been up?
I have been teaching some classes at a local quilt store. And so I've done some rope-based classes and machine applique classes. But my new class coming up is this gift class. And so it's 5 different gifts, just in time for the holidays.
Big gifts, little gifts?
Little gifts.
Stocking stuffers?
Stocking stuffer kind of stuff, like some zipper bags, little cell phone
sofa.
Pillow.
Hang out, keeping it cash.
A postcard, how you can do these little cute Christmas postcards, which I think if people have watched this, I've shown some samples of those on
episodes ago.
On the episodes. That, and I don't remember. Oh, a stocking, because
a stocking that you stuff everything else in.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So that people can do that. But the also big news is I just got back from Houston, the quilt show. I have never been. Oh my gosh. That place was crazy and amazing, and we should go next year, Pam.
Okay.
Seriously, we should. I got to tell you. So I totally, got a little freaked out. If you watched my Instagram, I did see Kate Fassett.
But Lynn, I saw Cat Fassett.
I know. That was funny.
Fun Instagram takes. Perfect picture of my cat sitting across the table.
So I was sitting at lunch, and my friend and my mother-in-law who went with me to Houston, and a friend was there. And so we were having lunch at a great restaurant, Papados. And so this guy walks in front of us, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Kate Fassett!" And they were like, "Who's that?" Like,
you fangirled?
Well, I didn't. I just, in my head and, to them, I fangirled. But I didn't go up to him or anything because I was like...
You just creepy Instagram pictured him.
I totally creepy Instagram pictured him.
Okay.
With me going, "Hey, I can see you." Kate Fassett. I figure he's not on Instagram.
Might be. He probably has his people on Instagram.
He's probably, and I'm going to go, "Who's this Lynn chick?"
Who
Kind of strange.
Who dis?
Watching me eating lunch. There you go.
What did he have? What did he eat?
I don't know. It was too far away. I didn't see what he had.
That's what you got to zoom on your camera for.
I know. I probably should have done that.
And you could judge his eating habits.
Everything. Yes.
Too much ketchup.
I don't know. Papa Do's is a seafood type of restaurant, so I don't know that ketchup was on the menu. If it was a
I think
burger
if you're
place,
K-Facet, you can ask for ketchup whenever
you can
want
have it wherever you want. Yes, exactly, because you are K-Facet.
There you go.
So I was fangirl a little. I
little.
fangirled one other person too. I met Carol Fowler.
Carol Bryant Fowler.
Bryant Fowler Gentry is her name.
That's a lot of names.
Yes, and she's lovely. Absolutely
Yes,
lovely.
we've heard that.
Yes.
Because Jane Sassaman talked so highly of her.
She did. And I actually got to meet her and shake her hand and got a picture with her. I did fangirl her. We were walking by and I was like, the two same people were with me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Carol. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, just one of the greatest quilters ever. I totally fangirled. And they're like, well, you should go meet her. I'm like, no, because I'm kind of like not, I won't do that. But they made me go up and talk to her. So I did. I went up and talked to her. She was lovely and very kind and let me take a picture with her. And I told her I loved her quilts.
There you go.
There you go. And I do. That hasn't changed. I still love her quilts and she's still lovely. So anyway.
So it's always lovely when you meet the people that you are fans of and they do not disappoint you.
No, was not. Of course, I didn't mean Cave, but I just cyber stalked him.
Disappointed in his restaurant choice.
It's a great restaurant. One of my favorite restaurants. But not disappointed at all. But yeah, Carol was lovely. She was really nice. And
good.
So yeah, but I fangirled. It was like, and it was funny because my friends were like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh my god." It was Carol. So anyway,
cool.
So what are we talking about today?
Talking about how I just stayed home, did nothing while you were living it up.
I know. I know. I've seen in these Instagram pictures, Pam's like, mine's this. Like, I got scissors too. I actually hung out with Famore and went and met Ink and Arrow wasn't there, but met Paper Pieces, who's Quilt Exchange, hung out with them, met tons of people. You definitely have to come with me next year.
Just got to put it on the schedule.
Yeah, we'll put it on the schedule. Cool. Pam and Lynn do Houston. It'll be crazy. So, Quilt as you go.
Since you've been going.
Yes, we should talk about Quilt as you go.
So this was a viewer suggested topic, I think, and upfront and honest, Lynn and I, neither one have done this technique a lot. However, my mother-in-law has frequently.
Oh, good.
This is what she does for t-shirt quilts when she makes for the myriad of nieces and nephews and great-grandchildren and like this.
This is good for that kind of quilts, too, because for like block type quilts.
And the benefit of Quilt as you go is essentially, let's say you make a block, then you go ahead and back it and sandwich it, the whole basting thing, quilt that little thing, which is much easier on a domestic machine. I imagine it's probably a little weirder on a long arm.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to do this on a long arm.
So if you just have a domestic machine, and like when I first started out, I had a Singer that had a 7-inch throat space. So fairly small. Now, I did do a king-size quilt on that.
Did you really?
Maybe not well. Just saying. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
That's like quilt wrestling serious.
Oh, yeah. That's the picture where it's like the card tables beside it, and to get it to the right height, I used cans of corn and beans. And I had to finish by Thanksgiving, not only because that's when they were coming, and I was going to give them the quilt, and I had to cook the corn and beans.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so Quilt as you go.
No one else has ever been there and done that, ever. So I'm sure.
It's a lot more achievable when you're just working with the domestic. But the trick is then, okay, so you have all these quilted pieces, and what do you actually do with it? So this is a little sample Lynn made that I totally just lifted off her sewing room. Like, I need this.
Took it away.
And this little chalkboard. So this part's not quilted, but we've got, the regular border with cotton fabric. And it is officially quilted. And then what Lynn did, which is probably key for this technique, is do like an 1/8 inch from the edge here, just to get all your layers secure so that one of them's not going to go rogue and fold in and be caught awkwardly. So the method that I know is you take your thing and you have your lovely design wall here.
Yes. I've used that design wall before. Yes. Not yours, but mine.
No, it's your own personal design wall.
Exactly.
So then you take 2-inch strips. You need two 2-inch strips. No, these are different fabrics just because, again, I was raiding Lynn's sewing room. So 2-inch wide. That is key. Not 2 1/8, not 1 3/4, 2-inch. And you layer them right sides together, one for the front, and then ideally you want one that matches the back. Again, I winged it. So you put this one right sides together with the back. You could have.
I could have.
And then you line up your edges, all magic-like.
Ooh.
And you sew this seam after, the stuff doesn't fall off. So through the magic of television, I'm just going to pin it. This is not Julia Child and already has the coq au vin pulling out of the oven, whatever. I'm not French.
Coq au vin. Which I've never made.
Well, yeah, I usually drink the wine before it gets in the chicken.
Okay. Did you ever cook this?
Ta-da! Look, it's all sewn. So then what you do is you flip this up and you flip up the back one and you press that well. Ta-da! Now here's where the trick happens. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're getting your next pre-quilted piece and sewing it to the strip. But just on the front.
Just on the front.
Just on the front. And so the way it's going to work out is you're going to have about a 1/2 inch of this front strip showing. So that's why you want it to kind of match and go and be a design element here.
Right.
So once you do that, then you got this back flap hanging out. So you've got another piece joined here. This back one you have to fold the same way. Now here's where it gets ugly that I don't like. You have to hand sew it. You don't have to. But in order for it to look the best,
no,
hand sew.
Absolutely
Because you have to go and press this quarter-inch in.
That's like binding.
And do that thing with it.
I see what you're saying.
And then you stitch this down on the back.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's not a great method. We will find
the method.
Video. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I've only done this once, and actually, that's the method I was taught. And they're right. That's a big pain to do. So, but the method I found online at shinyhappyworld.com.
I like this already.
And it's a video, so you can go out there and watch it. We'll put that in the show notes, shinyhappyworld.com. So it is essentially this. You do your quilt block and you put batting, and she stressed that it needed to be 100% cotton batting.
Why?
The same size as your quilt block, and that she explained it in a minute, so hold on.
I want to know now.
But you can wait. So then what she did is she took her quilt block, cut the batting the exact same size as the quilt block, and quilted it.
Okay.
So
with no backing on it.
With no backing on it.
Clean out your bobbin frequently if you do that.
This is what she did.
Go everywhere.
Then she sewed all of her blocks together with a 1/4 inch seam, and this is where she said why it had to be 100% cotton batting. She then pressed the seams open of sewing those blocks together.
Okay.
So because it's cotton, it will press open better than
it won't melt.
And it won't melt like an 80/20 or a poly or that. So, and wool, I would not do this with wool. Wool would be a nightmare to do this with.
It's very
floofy. Yes. And then what she did is she layered them with the backing and then just took her sewing machine and stitched in the ditch or did like little parallel lines on either side of it. So, and then that was easier for her to do than manipulating a big quilt because then you're just doing parallel lines. Okay. So I felt like, well, that's another way you can do it. Yes. But all your seams are going to be a little bit bulky just because it allowed her to get more intricate quilting, though, in each block because she's only dealing with, 12 inches under your needle and trying to do your free motion thing.
So with both of them, it's sort of you put together rows or columns of blocks and then you join the rows or columns together with one long seam.
Right? No, with hers, you would join all the blocks together that you want for your quilt.
Okay.
Then pen baste it like you normally would with the backing and then just sew the technical quilting is still just the either stitch in the ditch or the parallel lines. And what
Okay.
she was doing is she was making it easier to
To get the small
to
motion
get
of
the
intricate.
right, to get rid
Okay.
of that kind of stuff so that she was only dealing with the smaller thing. I have used this quilt as you go method on small projects like this, and on applique. Like if
Mhm.
I've got something small, I use the applique as part of my quilting.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
Yeah. So that's
Time saver.
probably, yeah, it's a time saver in that aspect, especially for small
Mhm.
table runners or, you know, placemats or something
Yeah.
small. I will do that. But I've never, I took a class in how to do quilt as you go,
Mhm.
and I've never finished the quilt because it was that method that you showed, and it just got fussy for me.
Yeah.
And I don't like hand binding.
That's the thing.
So that hand
Now,
stuff on the back, I think
the
I would be
alternative to
like,
doing the hand stuff on the back is
turn it under and stitch.
use a decorative stitch, and then it's not so obvious if you're just doing a straight line. And sometimes you can find this with machine binding too, where
Right.
some methods you're stitching from the back in the ditch and hope you catch the fold over part, which is kind of the case here. But if you use a decorative stitch, then that kind of masks some of any potential wobbliness and follow. And you're pressing that piece of the strip of fabric
Right,
quarter inch
you're
under.
pressing
It may
under.
not always be perfect.
She was talking that there's a way to do this, and I'm assuming your method works with this with bias tape.
Yes.
2-inch bias tape.
Yes.
You can use with that.
The only caveat there is be careful that it's not stretching at some point and going to warp things.
I think that would
stuff's
be
usually
tough.
pretty starched within an inch of its life, or
Yeah, it is.
sizings on it. that would
Right,
keep it.
yeah. But
you could use that either of these methods for Droid, because that's put together in columns. You could just like quilt your column and then join it and just use whatever your background fabric is to join.
Well, true. I think if you were doing that method because you didn't want to do a lot of free motion, Droid looks so good with straight quilting.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I have to tell you, when I was quilting this on the long arm, I put it on there horizontally, and I put my
because I did that when I quilted mine too, and eventually kind of
and I put my channel locks. I have channel locks on the long arm to where it won't allow you to go vertically, or it won't allow you to go horizontally. It'll trade off. And so I took the channel locks on, and I was standing there and literally just pressing it with my finger, moving it slow enough to where it would just stitch the line. But I wasn't like touching the controls or anything. I was doing this because it's not a real heavy machine. It's a light machine. And my husband came in and went, "That doesn't count. You are not quilting."
Just use your pinky.
I'm like, "Yes, I am." So, but this is all straight line quilted except for the parts in the orange. I did a little fun stuff. And then I put authentic battle damage, where the paint would have gotten scruffed up, because I thought that was fun. So, but I think for quilt as you go method, you could do that, but this would be an easy quilt to do without.
Yeah, it's just kind of like feeding straight through, and you
Yeah.
can roll up when it gets under the harp, and then when you get halfway, you just flip the quilt around. Or
Right.
some people, when it comes to walking feed or walking foot straight line quilting, they think that every other row you should go one way on the quilt and then come back the other way.
I did that with this.
Yeah.
Went this way and then get back this like this, and then I did this, and then I did
Got your workout.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Although apparently, according to my husband, that is not really quilting and it's fake.
Yeah,
So-
but it's D for done.
Yes, exactly. And it was done just in time to hang for the show. Yay! Because Pam gave me a deadline.
Yes, I did.
That's
Well,
how
she
it
sent me a
works.
picture and said, "I'm done," and she had just finished the top. I'm like, "That's not done." There's like a middle and a back and an edge. Like, it's not done.
There's more stuff that has to happen. Apparently, it happened.
Yes.
So anyway.
So we will put some links in the show notes to the book that I know my mother-in-law uses. I will look that up and link in there.
And the video I watched.
Yes, and I believe, and I don't know if it's still online, but Sewing with Nancy did several segments around Quilt as You Go method. So I will see if we can dig those up if they're still around.
Yeah, she would
and
be a
link to
great
those,
resource.
because that's a great resource and it's free.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a little break, give you guys a closer look at Droid, and we'll be right back.
Okay, now we're going to talk about washing and caring for our quilts. So, what do you know about washing and caring for our quilts?
I know that the techniques are different based on the age and condition of the quilt and the quilt's purpose and what you do with it and all that good stuff.
There you go.
Ta-da!
Yay. No, you were telling me last night, which I thought this was an awesome idea. You were saying that when you give a quilt away, you give a little...
I have a little pre-printed slip, and I think I just did it in Microsoft Word, and I can get like 3 on a page because I do commission quilts for like one person, and it goes to a new mom, and it's for a baby quilt. And so those quilts are always made with the intention that they were going to be washed a lot because babies are pretty leaky. So I always want to tell them, like, do not be afraid to wash this. It should not fall apart and disintegrate on first wash. So
I
just say that, and then I print them off and give them a little slip of paper and just kind of fold it up in there with the quilt. Like, hey, congrats on your new quilt. Here's how to care for it.
That's a great idea.
It's very handy.
It is.
I think if it's a Word document, I can just convert it to PDF and we can post it on the website.
Wouldn't
That'll be in the show notes.
Oh my gosh, more show notes. I'm glad I don't have to post the show notes.
Yeah.
Because I would
I'm going
forget
to stop
everything.
saying it'll go in the show notes. That's just more work for me.
So there, you're right. There are 2 different methods to taking care of your quilts. One is a dry method, and the other is a wet method.
Is that like dry shampoo and regular shampoo for your hair?
Yes, it is. Well, now what I'm talking about is more vintage and antique quilts.
Yes.
So that would be a little bit different than what are on. You should probably tell us what's on that thing, though.
But I don't have it memorized. I mean, it's pretty much like, don't be afraid to wash it. Do the gentle cycle. Let it dry outside in the sun if you can.
Okay.
Just natural drying.
But it can be...
Particularly if it gets stinky.
Right. It can be tumble dried if you want.
Yes. On low, preferably. Right. But then you run the risk of like, oh, then it's tumble dried for like 90 minutes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes I do like mostly dry and then lay it out to finish drying.
Okay.
But don't leave it out there in the sun forever because again, that'll fade it.
Okay.
Not good. Yeah, spot cleaning is okay, but again, if it's dirty, just go ahead and wash it.
Yeah.
And pretty much if you're going to store it, make sure that you take it out and refold it every 6 months at least. Store it preferably in a pillowcase, not in a cedar trunk because that's acidic.
Right. Never a plastic bag.
Let it breathe.
Because it'll choke the fibers.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to strangle them.
Right.
Right. Those are all good tips. I approve.
Thank you.
But I was going to tell you how to do vintage or antique. Cool. Because I do get questions about that all the time. There are 2 methods to cleaning them. If you've got a really old, delicate antique quilt, I would not ever suggest that you use a wet method for a very...
Yeah, because you don't know how it's going to react.
Right, exactly. So wet method, be very cautious with. But using a dry method, what you're going to do is you're going to put your vacuum cleaner on the lowest suction level you can. So it's not trying to get stuff out of the carpet. You are putting it on very low suction level with a handheld vacuum.
But hold on, what if instead I leave it at the regular suction level, but I just make sure that I've vacuumed a lot of cat hair before and that the filter's kind of clogged, so it's not very effective?
Okay, that's one method.
Because that's my usual, I gotta be honest. A lot of cat hair.
But you want a handheld, vacuum with a brush attachment.
Okay. Not a rotating brush, just like
just a brush.
Static brush.
The static brush, yeah. And if the quilt is delicate, you want a nylon screen over the quilt first.
Like a window screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Nylon screen. You want to put it over the quilt first. And then you're going to, remember when we talked about pressing, you're going to kind of do this?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to do. So you're going to have the nylon screen, and then you're going to take the vacuum and let it pull out the dirt and then lift up. You don't want to be doing this, like not ironing. You're pressing the vacuum to the fabric. And And that's how you would deal with antique or very delicate condition quilts. Now,
front and back.
Yeah, I would do front and back. Yep.
Okay.
So with the nylon screen again.
Like just lay it on your floor, your carpet, whatever. And do
Yeah.
That. Okay.
Yeah. Now, let me say this, though. These are your quilts, so how you handle them,
Go crazy.
Go crazy. But these are, wet cleaning method is not recommended by textile conservators. And do not wash your quilt if it contains the following fabrics. Deteriorated fabrics, if any of them are deteriorated, like you're just seeing pieces of them flake off, don't use a wet method. Glazed or silk fabrics, don't use a wet method. Woolen yarns and questionable dyes. So, I mean, I'm talking 100, 200-year-old quilts too. So, if they've never been washed before and they're antique, you probably don't want to use a wet method. And remember, and this is
got some funk in there if they're antique and never been washed.
And some of them are. Yeah, they are. And you just need to remember that textile fabrics, when you get them wet, the fibers are more fragile. So wetting them will make your quilt more fragile when it's an old quilt. So I would just be careful of I know I'm cautioning you about that, but we're talking really old quilts. You want to be careful. All right. So if it's not that old and you're wanting to wash it, what we would say is use a very mild detergent, Ivory Liquid or Orvis, which is sold at quilt shops as quilt soap.
Ivory Liquid clothes detergent, not Ivory Liquid dish soap, which will foam to high heaven and jack up your washing machine. That's true. We talked about that way back in episode 1, I think.
Yeah.
Which don't watch.
But it's a solution of a half an ounce of detergent to a gallon of distilled, filtered, or softened water.
Okay, how do you get distilled, filtered, or softened water in your washing machine?
You pour it in. You don't have to turn it on.
I have a front load machine, Lynn. How do I do that?
Oh.
Chuck it in, close the door real fast, hope it doesn't sploosh out.
I hadn't thought of that because I've got the top loader.
Yeah, I got that.
Well, you need to come over here and talk to me.
Or maybe I just won't have any antique quilts I need to wet wash.
There you go. All right. Use a large... Well, no. I'm sorry. These are antique quilts. You're not putting this in a washing machine. You're putting this in your bathtub. Or a large tub.
Bubble bath.
Bubble bath. You're not putting it in a washing machine.
Well, okay.
You're going to use a large container enough to accommodate the quilt.
A bucket.
Yeah. And usually a bathtub is really what works the best, right?
Garden tub, regular tub, any kind of tub.
You're not going to...
Saturday night wash tub, ain't no hole in the bucket. What? Little M and Honor jug band Christmas happening.
You pulled that out like that. That's amazing.
That whole song, There Ain't No Hole in the Wash Tub, lives in my head. In a dark corner, like all the time. It's right there.
There you go. All right. So
anyway, tubs.
Tubs. You're going to have a tub. Shouldn't be a hole in it.
Please clean your tub before you do that. Because if it's my tub, then the cats get in there and there's like cat hair and maybe a bug. Some dust. Because we don't take a lot of baths in my family.
We're shower kind of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too.
So don't put it in the dishwasher either.
No, don't put this in the dishwasher. So you're going to submerge the quilt in the water after you put the distilled water and a half ounce of the detergent per gallon.
Okay.
Do not agitate the quilt in the water. So
just kind of gently press it to get it submerged.
Right. You're going to press it to get it submerged, and you're going to rinse it by pressing down the quilt with the palm of your hand or a cellulose sponge.
Okay.
So it's a very time-consuming, and these are older quilts. They're quilts that, if this is something we just made, I'm putting it in the washing machine. Yeah. Just saying.
Modern fabrics and thread and batting can stand up to
not 100-year-old stuff.
Right.
So you're going to remove the excess water by pressing gently with clean white toweling or mattress padding.
And do that, well, so drain the tub and then
Drain
kind
it,
of
yes.
press on it while it's in the tub.
Right,
Okay.
yes. Lift the quilt with a towel or sling with both arms so that the weight is evenly distributed, and do not lift by one edge or corner.
Okay.
Because it's wet, you've damaged the fibers.
Don't wear your good silk blouse to do
No.
this.
And you're going to lay it flat to dry on a clean, non-porous surface.
Okay.
And then
like, do I have a clean, non-porous surface in my house? No, I do not.
There you go.
Because then I got to go clean the kitchen floor.
Exactly. No, and you don't want to put it on wood floors because that stain can come up with the water.
Right.
Yeah. So don't do that. Don't put it on wood floors. Tile.
I got nothing. I don't have tile in my house.
Yeah. But these are antique.
Could I lay out a helper quilt?
A helper quilt.
In the yard and put this quilt on top of it.
You could. Or maybe insulation.
Like an insulation board.
Yeah.
The stiff, not the roll out your fiberglass and embed your quilt with fiberglass fibers, because that's not cool.
Yeah, not that.
But yeah. Okay, stiff board, got it.
And then put... So, but again, the cleaning method for antique vintage wet method is definitely cautious. And a lot of times I've talked to some quilt collectors that will not do it without a professional person who's a conservator of,
How does one become a conservator? Is that a college degree? Is that an independent certification?
I know that the University of Nebraska has a degree in quilt history, quilt study. I'm sure there are a couple of other universities. I just know that one happens to have one. And this has got to be covered in that kind of coursework.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's a certification. It's got to be part museum stuff and textile world, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
That's what I know. But that's the two methods for the antique or vintage quilts that,
So then how do you store your antique or vintage quilts?
Well, just as you would store yours, our quilts today, you want to store it in a cotton, non-aesthetic, bag. If it's fugitive or if you've got flakes, you may want to store it. A lot of quilts are stored in boxes, acid-free boxes that you would store textiles in with acid-free paper, kind of in between each layer when they're folded. And again, I have gone down to the local museum and they have refolding days every so many months. And they, take all the quilts out, unfold them, refold them differently because you don't want to have, them have memory. Yeah. Cotton has memory. So if you keep folding it the exact same way, the exact same time, you're going to get that rub there, and that's where you'll see it.
I will say, and to find that kind of box, like acid-free paper and all that, when women go to store wedding dresses.
Yes, that's the same kind of box.
But be on the lookout, like everything else in the bridal industry, they may be marked up considerably if you think it's for a wedding dress.
Right. The production staff just did a question to me. What does fugitive mean? Fugitive is where you have the disintegration of the fabric is not there anymore, and they call that fugitive fabric. So it's gone.
It's fabric on the run. It's looking for the one-armed man.
It's disintegrating. It's not. That's what it's called. And a lot of times that's because of the mordants or the dyes that they use in that time in history.
Purples and reds did it a lot.
Purples and reds did it a lot. And especially with silk fibers, you saw a lot of, I see a lot of crazy quilts, and the crazy quilt may be great, but silks. Yeah. Like if they use
they kind of disintegrate.
Disintegrate, yeah. And they call it fugitive fabric. So it's gone away. It's sad. So.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Well, do you feel washed up when it comes to quilting? Fear not. We're here for you. Leave a comment on our blog or on the YouTube episode. And that's all we have for this episode. Again, today's show was made possible by QT Fabrics. You can learn more about them at qtfabrics.com. Thanks also to Famori Cutlery. You can learn how to stay sharp with them at famoricutlery.com.
We'd also like to thank 77 Peaches and Big Think Productions for helping produce The Stitch. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe.
The next virtual stitch-in is Friday, December 8th at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Again, daylight savings just happened here, so I know there was some potential confusion when we had our last one. That'll be broadcast on the YouTube channel or on our website. And my podcast, Tip to Be a Square, will be out Fridays on iTunes or Google Play.
All those details and more can be found on our website, thestitchtvshow.com. Tune in next time for more quilting chat with friends.